All right, so you're thinking about becoming a verger, huh? Not exactly something you hear every day.
Definitely not your typical 9 to 5.
Nope, not at all. We've got a bunch of stuff here, career guides, sample interview questions.
Even some AI stuff from RoleCatcher?
Exactly.
Mhm.
So the goal of this deep dive is to, give you a behind-the-scenes look at what this whole verger thing is all about, and, more importantly,
How to totally nail that interview.
you got it.
You know what's interesting to me? Most people don't really get how much is involved in being a verger.
Yeah, they probably just think you, tidy up and stuff.
It's way more than that. It's like you're orchestrating the whole flow of the
It's like
service.
stage manager or something.
Exactly, except way more meaningful than just a playwright. You're creating a space where people can connect with their spirituality.
It's a big responsibility.
Yeah.
So you handle administrative tasks, you've got the equipment, the clergy.
Got to make sure everything runs without a hitch for the congregation.
And what about all the technology they're using in churches these days?
Oh, yeah, that's a whole other thing. Churches are using some pretty sophisticated sound systems, online platforms for record keeping.
I've even seen churches live streaming their services now.
Definitely not just lighting candles anymore.
So we've established that being a verger is a pretty multifaceted role.
Hmm.
But before we jump into interview prep, let's talk about the work environment.
Yeah, good point. The career guide mentions that a verger's workspace goes beyond the sanctuary.
So it's not just about being in the main worship space.
Right. You'll probably have an office for the administrative stuff. Then there's the sacristy where you get everything ready for the services.
And then, of course, you're in the main worship space for the actual service.
Exactly. And the day can be pretty varied depending on what the church has going on.
Services, meetings, special events.
You could be setting up for morning prayer, then helping with a wedding in the afternoon, and then getting things ready for an evening Bible study.
Sounds like you're interacting with a lot of different people, too.
Oh, yeah. Clergy staff, volunteers, the congregation. You're constantly working with people.
Sounds like you need some serious people skills for this job.
Definitely. You need to be good with people, diplomatic, and you absolutely have to respect the church's traditions and values.
Okay, so let's get to the good stuff, acing that interview.
Right, let's do it.
We've got a list of some common questions they ask in Verger interviews, and I'm really curious to get your take on how to approach them.
Let's hear them.
Okay, first one is pretty straightforward. What inspired you to pursue a career in the church?
Might seem simple, but it's your chance to really show your passion.
Like you really want this.
Yeah, and how your values connect to the role. Think about those specific experiences that sparked your interest in serving the church.
Don't just say, I've always loved going to church.
Right. Give them something more.
Oh,
Was
yeah.
there a sermon that really hit home? Did you volunteer somewhere and that made you want to do more?
Makes sense. What about tailoring your answer to the specific church you're applying to?
Absolutely. Do your research. What resonates with you about their mission and their values?
So much research.
Well, luckily there's RoleCatcher. Their AI can actually analyze the job description and the church's website and help you figure out how to tailor your answer to their specific context.
Whoa, that's super helpful.
Yeah,
Especially if you're applying to a bunch of different churches.
for sure. You can create unique responses for each one to show you get them.
Okay, next question. What experience do you have working in a church or similar setting? What if someone's never actually been a verger before?
That's where transferable skills come in. Think about any volunteer work you've done. Have you organized events, managed logistics for a team?
Even stuff outside of a church setting.
Exactly. It can all show them you can handle the responsibilities of a verger.
Okay, so you haven't worn the robe, but you can highlight those skills that translate to the role.
Right.
All right, this one is interesting. What do you think are the most important qualities for a verger to possess? This is where they want to know if you really get what being a verger is all about.
It's all about the core values. And guess what? We actually have a career guide here that lists some of those key qualities.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so they emphasize organizational skills, attention to detail, multitasking, and strong communication skills.
So don't just say, I am organized.
Yeah.
Give them an example.
Exactly. You could say something like, I'm really good at making checklists and managing schedules to make sure everything runs smoothly during services.
Perfect. Anything else?
Oh, and don't forget about discretion and respecting religious practices. You're often dealing with sensitive information.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
You need to be able to maintain that sense of decorum in the church environment.
Right.
And this is another place where RoleCatcher can be a lifesaver. You can type your answers into their AI platform, and it'll give you feedback.
Really?
Yeah, it'll tell you if you're hitting those key points that the church is looking for.
It's like having a virtual interview coach.
Exactly. Okay, next question. Can you describe a time when you had to handle a difficult or challenging situation while working in a church setting?
Ah, the classic behavioral question.
I know, but what if you haven't worked in a church before?
No problem. You can draw on experiences from other parts of your life.
So it doesn't have to be church related.
Not at all. They're trying to see if you can stay calm under pressure, think critically, and find solutions.
Like when you had to deal with that super demanding customer.
Or that time you had to resolve a conflict between colleagues.
It's all about showing them you can handle challenges gracefully and learn from those experiences.
Exactly.
Okay, now this next question is interesting. What do you think are the most important functions of a verger? It sounds like they want you to go beyond just listing tasks.
They want you to understand how the role contributes to the overall mission of the church.
So it's about connecting those practical tasks to the bigger picture.
You got it. Think about how vergers keep those services running smoothly. That allows the congregation to focus on worship.
Right, and they create that atmosphere of reverence and order that enhances the whole spiritual experience.
And they support the clergy so the clergy can focus on their pastoral duties and spiritual leadership.
It's all about showing them that you get the value and the impact of the verger's role in the church community. This is fantastic advice. We've covered so much ground here. It feels like we've only just scratched the surface.
We have a lot more to unpack.
We've got more interview questions to tackle and even more insights to uncover. But let's take a short break and come back for part 2.
Sounds good. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of vergers.
We're back and ready to keep exploring.
We've been talking about all the things that go into being a verger and how to get ready for that interview.
It's amazing how much we've already uncovered.
There's still so much to talk about.
I know, right? We left off talking about the broader functions of a verger.
Right, how they contribute to the overall mission of the church.
Exactly. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about teamwork.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Exactly. One of the common interview questions is, how do you collaborate with other members of the church team to ensure that services and events are successful?
It's a big one. Churches are all about community, and this question is really getting at whether you can work well with others.
You're not just working in a silo.
Definitely not. You're going to be interacting with everyone from the clergy to the choir to all the volunteers.
Yeah.
So you got to show them you've got those people skills.
So it's not enough to just be good at your own individual tasks?
Nope. You've got to be a team player.
Yeah.
Think about times when you've worked on projects with others. Organized events contributed to a team effort.
Any situation where you had to collaborate.
Exactly. And highlight those communication skills, your ability to really listen to different perspectives.
And be willing to compromise to find solutions that work for everyone.
And don't forget about the little things being reliable, offering to help when someone's in a bind, celebrating successes together.
All those things that build a strong team spirit.
Exactly. And that's so important in a church environment. And remember how we talked about RoleCatcher's AI?
Uh-huh.
Well, it can actually look at that specific job description and tell you what teamwork skills they're really looking for.
So you can tailor your answer to what they actually want.
Right. Maybe they need someone who can handle conflict or delegate tasks or even lead a team of volunteers.
It's like having a secret weapon.
And speaking of weapons, RoleCatcher has this awesome feature that lets you save and organize your favorite interview questions along with your answers.
So it's like having a personalized study guide.
Exactly. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about the practical side of being a verger.
Right, the skills, the tasks, the interview questions.
But being a verger also has a spiritual dimension.
Definitely. So is there a way to bring that into the interview without sounding fake?
That's a good question. The key is to be authentic.
Like, don't force it.
Exactly. If you're drawn to this role because of your faith, it's okay to express that.
So if they ask you about your motivation, you could say something about how your faith inspires you to serve.
Or how you find fulfillment in supporting the church's mission.
But keep it brief and genuine.
Right. And if you're not sure how to phrase it, RoleCatcher's AI can help you with that too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They can give you feedback on your answers and help you refine your message so it comes across as authentic.
I love that technology can help with something as personal as faith.
It's pretty amazing.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a minute and think about career progression.
Where can this role take you?
Exactly. We know the Verger career path starts with an assistant role and can lead to supervisory positions.
And we have a career guide here from RoleCatcher that breaks down each stage.
I love those guides.
Me too. They're so helpful. You can see the typical responsibilities at each level, from Verger assistant to Verger supervisor.
And they even have profiles of people at different points in their careers.
It's like having a mentor right there in the guide, showing you what's possible.
I love that. And the guide also talks about continuous learning.
Because the role of a Verger is constantly changing.
Makes sense. You've got to stay up to date on church administration, religious practices, and even new technology.
Right. It's a reminder that being a Verger is more than just a job. It's a calling.
That requires dedication and a willingness to keep learning and growing.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's be practical for a minute. What about salary?
The money talk.
Is there a way to figure out what Vergers typically make and how to approach that conversation with confidence?
Totally. RoleCatcher's platform actually has salary data built into their career guides.
No way.
Yeah. You can see the average salary ranges for different Verger positions.
So you can get a realistic idea of what to expect.
And feel more prepared to talk about your salary expectations in the interview.
I love that it takes some of the awkwardness out of that conversation.
For sure. Okay, now let's talk about those curveball interview questions.
The ones that come out of left field.
The ones that are designed to see how you think on your feet.
Any advice on how to handle those?
The best thing you can do is stay calm. Take a deep breath, gather your thoughts, and answer honestly and thoughtfully.
Don't panic.
Exactly. And it's totally okay to ask for clarification if you don't understand the question.
Or even admit that you don't know the answer but are eager to learn.
It's not about having the perfect answer. It's about showing them you can think critically and solve problems.
And guess what? RoleCatcher's AI can help you with those tricky questions too.
I knew it.
They have a huge library of interview questions, including those behavioral ones.
So you can practice your answers and get feedback.
Exactly. You can refine your delivery and feel super confident going into that interview.
That's awesome.
We've covered so much ground in this deep dive.
We have, from the day-to-day of being a Verger to all those interview questions.
And of course, RoleCatcher and all the amazing resources they offer.
It's been a great conversation.
I'm excited to keep exploring. Let's take a moment to recap some of those key insights and then dive into the final part of our Verger journey.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to our deep dive. It's the final part of our journey into the world of Vergers.
We've covered a lot of ground, haven't we?
We have from the day-to-day life of a Verger to all those interview questions.
And we can't forget about RoleCatcher.
Oh yeah, RoleCatcher's been a lifesaver.
They have so many great resources for anyone thinking about this career path.
Before we wrap things up, I want to circle back to RoleCatcher's AI for a minute.
Okay, sure.
We've talked about how it can analyze job descriptions. But how does that actually help someone prepare for a Verger interview?
It's actually pretty amazing. Okay, so let's say you've found a Verger position at a church that you're really interested in.
Okay, following.
You upload that job description to RoleCatcher, and their AI goes to work.
It's like a detective or something.
Exactly. It's looking for clues.
Clues about what?
About what the church is really looking for in a candidate, the skills, the experience, even personality traits.
So instead of just guessing, you have this data-driven roadmap.
Right. You know exactly what to emphasize in your resume, your cover letter, your interview answers.
It's like a cheat sheet for that specific job.
And remember all those practice interview questions we talked about?
Uh-huh.
RoleCatcher's AI can actually look at your answers and tell you if you're on the right track.
So it's like having a virtual coach giving you feedback.
Exactly. You'll know if you're hitting those key points that the church is looking for.
I love that you mentioned earlier that RoleCatcher has this feature for managing your professional network.
Yeah, it's super helpful.
I wouldn't think networking is that important for church jobs, but I'm probably wrong.
You'd be surprised networking is important in any field, even in the church community.
Like if you know someone who volunteers at a church.
Or if you've gone to events and met clergy or other staff members.
Those connections can be so valuable.
They can give you insights into the church's culture, maybe offer advice on the application process, or even tell you about openings that aren't advertised.
I never thought about that.
And RoleCatcher makes it easy to keep track of all those contacts. You can see who might be helpful for a specific job application.
It takes the guesswork out of networking.
For sure.
This deep dive has been incredible.
It has. We've learned so much about being a Verger.
We've talked about the challenges, the rewards, the interview process.
And we've discovered all the amazing resources that RoleCatcher has to offer.
So as we wrap up, what's the key takeaway for our listeners who are thinking about becoming a Verger?
I think the biggest thing is that being a Verger is more than just a job. It's a calling.
It's about serving your community, supporting the church's mission, and using your skills to make a real difference.
And even though it might seem intimidating, there are resources and tools out there to help you succeed.
Like RoleCatcher.
Exactly. They can help you find the right position, prepare for your interviews, and connect with the right people.
So if you're feeling called to this path, don't be afraid to take the leap.
There's a whole community out there ready to support you.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Vergers. We'll see you on the next episode.